Wow. See, I didn't even have time to take the damn logos off the screen.
And your mic.
All right. Well, at least we're good to go now.
Jesus Christ.
Dude, this show better be good for the amount of train wreck that we've put people through.
Sorry, guys. Third time's a charm.
Yep.
Blame OBS.
I'm going to need a really stiff drink after this one. Or maybe I'll have one during this one, depending on.
Dude,
depending
go
on,
make a fucking shot or something.
Tessa Garlington, hello, welcome to the show. She says the only Joker I see is Stevie. Is that a name? Is that something? Something we should explore?
No, I mean, that was my nickname when I was growing up because I couldn't say Steven when I was like 6. I had to say Weevy.
Oh, so Weevy, that's your new nickname.
Thanks, Tess. Really appreciate all these little tidbits of information you like to drop out. So, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the third attempt of this show. Shut the fuck up.
Weevy Weaverson.
Anyway, we're here. Finally. It looks good, I think.
We're talking about the Joker.
Yeah, let's talk about the fucking Joker. I'm starting to understand his mindset a little bit more as this progresses. But we'll just start it out with some basic information about the movie.
Actually, real quick, I'd like to point out, Tessa, actually, he can't Block you because I just gave you a wrench.
God damn it.
So now he can't block you.
She doesn't need a wrench, dude.
So keep them coming.
Terrible idea. She's going to abuse that power.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. We like that.
Your mic keeps peaking hard, it says.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just turned it down some.
Okay. All right. So Joker. Directed and written and produced by Todd Phillips, among some other people. And Todd Phillips was actually the guy that directed and wrote the Hangover trilogy. He did Old School. He did mostly comedies before this movie, which was pretty interesting. This was his first kind of serious, dramatic movie.
So why would I think the interesting question here is, if he's a comedy movie guy, why would he not do a comedy? Why would he do something I would consider to be a drama bordering on psychological thriller type movie?
Well, it's funny you ask. He actually gave an explanation in an interview, and these are his words, not mine. But he said that in today's society, the climate of like outrage culture, he said you can't make a comedy anymore. You risk offending the majority of your audience. He said he doesn't know what's funny at this, what is okay to laugh at, what isn't. He said so he didn't want to make a comedy anymore. He didn't want to have to walk that tightrope. So he said, I'm going to make a serious movie instead.
Well,
so yeah, but it had a budget of $55 to $70 million, somewhere in that ballpark. I don't know why it's giving me two different numbers, but it is
50 to 70. That's
like you're going to walk outside and it's either going to be -8 or 100 degrees tomorrow.
Yeah.
Pretty big fucking spread.
Yeah. I mean, that's a quarter of what you make in a week's pay, but whatever.
Well, the box office, it made $1.063 billion at the box office, which makes it the first R-rated film to pass the $1 billion mark at the worldwide box office. It makes it the 7th highest grossing film of 2019 and the 34th highest grossing film of all time, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah. Which means I think that surpasses my expectations for what I would consider a movie great, as far as performance goes. Not
box
necessarily
office numbers?
content of the movie, but that makes it a great performer. It was a hell of
Oh,
an earner.
absolutely. 100%.
And when did it come out? It hadn't been out long, right? 6 months, maybe.
Yeah, it hasn't been long. Uh, I could look it up and see when it came out, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. Um, let's see. It also did generate a little bit of controversy. It generated concerns of possibly inspiring real world violence.
Yeah.
The movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, where the mass shooting happened during the Dark Knight, they refused to show the movie. And so they interviewed the director about it, and he said he was surprised at the backlash. He said that he thought it's because outrage is a commodity these days, and he called critics of the film far left. That's quote unquote.
His words.
Yeah. And then the lead actor, what's his fucking name? Joaquin Phoenix. He actually walked out of an interview with the Telegraph when they asked him if the film could possibly inspire mass shooters. He did return to finish the interview, but he wouldn't answer that question. And after that, they disinvited all of the journalists from the premiere. Only photographers were allowed. And when asked why, they said, a lot's been said about the movie. We think it's time for people to just see it and make their own decisions.
Yeah, and I think if you ask me personally, good for them. Good for them for making a stand and saying, fuck you, this is art.
Yep.
This is art.
To me, the thing that drives me nuts is that we're still having this conversation. Like, when Taxi Driver came out, it was the same thing. And that was 30-something years ago. They were having the same conversation. Can it inspire real acts of violence? It's like, I mean, video games. They've been having this discussion about video games, movies, music. It wasn't the two guys in Columbine that shot. It was because they listened to Rammstein and Marilyn Manson. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, at some point, you have to stop.
It's not the people that do shitty things. It's the things that they listen to that inspired it. Who cares? Who cares? There's a such thing as artistic expression, right? I've personally heard the lead singer Brian of Marilyn Manson, or as everybody knows him as Marilyn Manson. I've heard this dude speak, and he is a hyper intelligent individual.
Absolutely.
He is the least the furthest thing from a violent creature I think you could get on this fucking planet, right? And still survive at least. But if that music invokes a certain feeling, like there are certain songs out there that if I listen to when I'm working out or doing physical activities, it's gonna make me perform more, right? Just because it gives you that emotional push that makes you enjoy that kind of stuff, right? So art is supposed to invoke feelings, whether they're good or bad. That's irrelevant. It's supposed to invoke feelings, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, if it shut up, Johnny. If it invokes a dude to go shoot up a fucking school, don't blame the goddamn movie. Blame the dude that went and shot up the school.
Well, it's the same. It's we've gotten to this point, and I don't want to go on this huge tangent, but it's just an interesting point. But we've come to this point where instead of blaming the individual for an action that they carry out, you find something else to blame. Whether it be you blame the movie that they saw, the music they listened to, or the gun that they used. As a society, we no longer blame the person. And that, to me, it comes down to a lack of personal accountability. I listen to Marilyn Manson. I've listened to Rammstein, and I haven't shot up a school.
Yeah, I listen to Marilyn Manson.
So you can't tell me that the music itself inherently makes people do terrible things. It doesn't. It depends on the individual.
I listened to Marilyn Manson and Rammstein and Slipknot and Mudvayne and went to school and didn't shoot the motherfucker up, because I know shooting people up is the wrong fucking thing to do. That's exactly. So I don't know. Personal accountability aside, either way it goes. So this movie literally invokes all kinds of feelings for all kinds of people. Myself, not withheld.
Yeah,
And
because
that's
it tackles real issues.
well, that's going to bring me to what I think is the underlying current of this movie is he is clearly suffering from mental illness.
Absolutely.
Whether that be schizophrenia, whether it be bipolar disorder, whatever label they want to put on it. Me personally, I think it's schizophrenia that they're talking about, but um, he's a product of a society that no longer puts an emphasis on physical on mental health. Right? There's a huge idea that these people exist and we're aware that they exist, and he's clearly trying to get help for his disorder, but the system doesn't see him as a priority, right? So I think this is there are a lot of underlying kind of issues that this movie is trying to address all at one time, but the mental illness and mental health kind of crisis, I think, is the main point of the movie, and I think it addresses it like better than you could imagine addressing an issue like that.
I somewhat agree. It does clearly address mental illness. My problem with it is that, to me, mental illness, they address mental illness and Taxi Driver much in the same light. Yep. And there's a lot of comparisons between this movie and Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, right? This was 30 years ago. Joker does the same thing to me that Taxi Driver did. It exposes mental illness and the state that like society is, right? And that we don't put an emphasis on mental illness and mental health of people, right? That's not really our main priority as a society, but it offers no solution. It essentially paints a portrait of a man abandoned by society, left outcast, right? And then it says, essentially it boils down to, well, this sucks. And this is what can happen.
Yeah.
But it offers nothing in the way of a solution.
However,
so I don't lose respect for it, but it's not as cutting to me. If it was like an expose and a potential solution, or, hey, this is happening, this is what we should do, I think it would be a better look at it.
I don't think it's required to offer a solution.
No, it's definitely not required. To me, it would be more compelling if it did.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it like the Ice Bucket Challenge, right? There are literally millions of people worldwide that donated to an organization that, until somebody dumped a bucket of ice water on their head, had no idea existed.
Yeah.
Right? Which means it accomplished the goal that it set out to. Was it brought awareness to something that we all knew what multiple sclerosis is, but nobody knew what the ALS Foundation was. Nobody knew about that, right? But one thing comes out and it changes the entire dynamic of a system, a research facility, whatever they were using those funds for. It brought an entire new group of people to address an issue and say, hey, we need to figure out what's going on with this.
Yeah.
Right? It brought it to the forefront. So a movie like this that clearly did very well in the box office, over $1 billion, even if it's $1.00001, $1 billion, it still did over $1 billion. That means a shit ton of people saw this movie, and maybe that's what the big takeaway from the movie is like, okay, so I know this is going to be a stretch, right? But I feel like, as a horror movie aficionado, I think you could put this in the horror genre and you would catch some flack from purists because there's no real jump scares or anything like that. But if you put this in the horror movie section under psychological thriller, I think it would fit perfectly in that genre.
No, and to me, it is a perfect psychological thriller. It's just, I've seen this movie before.
Okay.
That's what gets me. People are acting like it's this crazy look at mental illness, and I'm like, Taxi Driver did this 35 years ago. King of Comedy did this 35 years ago.
Okay. Here's the
You
difference.
see what I'm saying? Or like
Here's,
Full Metal Jacket dealt with PTSD, probably better than any movie since then.
absolutely.
Right? So this, I don't give it, I give it credit for addressing the issue, but I'm not going to say it does it better than any other movie, because to me it doesn't.
Here's where I think it does. Here's where I think on this particular point we disagree, but both of us have a leg to stand on. It uses a platform that is more available to, more interesting to more people than either of those two movies did.
Okay.
You're talking the Joker. That's the arch nemesis of Batman. It
Right.
runs on a platform that I think Heath Ledger lost his life because he did quite possibly the darkest iteration of a Joker ever.
Yeah.
Up until I saw this movie, Heath Ledger was the best Joker of all time. Hands down, not even a question in my opinion. Right? You can't argue any other Joker was better than Heath Ledger. Not in my opinion. So if you take, you want to, how did Fire Festival get ruined? They used a bunch of high-end influencers that had a lot of people following it, right? This was a saga that has been going on for the past, 30 years in the Batman DC universe. It's been going on. So like they took a character that has set the standard for a really deranged person with no superhero, superpowers. He's just a dude that wants to see the world burn. They took that and said, let's use this to talk about this. And that's where I think it does it better, because it uses something that has a much larger appeal amongst the general public.
Yeah. And just a couple of things in chat. Tess said there's not a one size fits all solution for mental health issues. I totally agree. Like 100% agree. Obviously, it's all based on the person, right? So it comes down to an individual thing. But I do think there are solutions that can be offered up that would help a vast majority of people.
Yeah, like the fact that social services were cut out from under him, and that's what sent him down
Over
this downward spiral, right? And I think
did you notice like at the beginning of the movie he's walking up the long staircase and it's like he's still trying to keep up his sanity, right? And then at the end when he goes full Joker,
he's
it's
coming
him
down,
dancing down this, like essentially descending into chaos and insanity.
Yeah,
that was a great visual metaphor. And then Johnny says mental health is one of the most difficult things to tackle. There are obviously people who need help. There are also people who want to be lazy and given sympathy but not change. And I agree with that too. There are some people that do use, maybe even not intentionally, but use it as a crutch. I think I've seen it, where it's like something's wrong, but they don't necessarily seek out help. And this is all just the backdrop of the movie, right? This is kind of the real world setting that the movie is in. It's set through this frame, this scope, which it's an interesting scope to take. It's just,
and that's where I got to disagree with you about the offering a solution, right? But because the solution is not one-sided. It's not something that you can paint with a broad stroke. It has to be, there's fine lines and there's nuances and there's this and there's that and there's several different types of mental illness that need to be addressed that can lead to, violent behavior or, the undying urge to stop living, so I don't think there's a solution to be offered at the end of this movie. Maybe the solution is in the movie maybe we take a stiffer look at social services when it comes to mental health patients,
Well, and I'm not saying the movie had to offer a solution. I'm just saying that
But
if
you
it
literally
did,
just said that.
no. I'm saying if it did, that would have set it apart from the other movies that have done this in my book.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? To me, this is Taxi Driver 1.5. It's got a new coat of paint on it, and it's got a character with a different name, and they attached it in a comic book world so that it would get more appeal. It would get mass audience appeal. But it's essentially Taxi Driver and King of Comedy fucked and had a kid, and it's this. So to me, to set it apart from that, to where it doesn't draw all these comparisons, it could have done something a little bit different, right? And it did try to do a couple of things different, like the girl that he talks to and starts a relationship with, and she's not even there. But even that, to me, which by the way, obviously this is spoilers, when he fucking kills those guys on the subway and he goes back to that girl's apartment and they start fucking or whatever, immediately I was like, well, that's not real. I never bought that. The first viewing, I was like, this is obviously he's insane. And then it shows it as like this big reveal, this big twist, right? That she wasn't there. And it almost tried to do like a Fight Club thing. But whereas the first time I saw Fight Club, I had no idea that he wasn't really there, you know?
Yeah.
And on this one, I knew. It was unbelievable.
And see, I'm the exact opposite. When I watched it the first time, it never sunk in because she's a real person, clearly. She got on the elevator. There was some sort of interaction. So for me to kind of buy into, hey, there's a knock at the door. Who is it? And she's there. Like, they live on the same hall in the same building in the same city. It wasn't too far-fetched to be like, she might like fucking weirdos, whatever. It is what it is. Whatever your fetish is. There's people out there that like to get pegged, and I'm not down with that, but, to each their own. So it wasn't outlandish. Now, what kind of, so that loop was there for me. I didn't, and that's where I think you and I differ a little bit, man. That, like, just the way we watch movies, right? You look at it from analyze this movie from the ground up, right? I went into this movie clear-headed, not trying to compare it to anything, not thinking of anything else. I was watching the Joker.
Right.
I was watching it for what it was. I was buying the story. I was going where I needed to go with it. Right?
Well, I watch it blank slate, but afterwards I analyze the shit out of it. That's kind of how I do.
And I told you earlier when I called you, I said, dude, I watched it for a second time yesterday. I think I like it even more now than I did then. And I loved it then.
Well, okay. Here's where I think we disagree. I think this is a good movie. I don't think it's a great movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it's worth seeing. But for me, if we're talking about a Joker movie, right? Joker has always been the antithesis of Batman. Mm-hmm. That is what Joker is. That is the character. Okay. So if you're going to make a movie about that character, it has to follow some certain rules, in my opinion. The thing that makes Joker such a compelling character is that he is the opposite of Batman. We know Batman's backstory, right? By this time, we've seen Batman's parents killed more than any fucking other group of people, right? We know his backstory. We empathize with him.
Yeah. In
every other context of Joker that you can think of, there is no backstory, right? There's no empathy for that character because he has to be the opposite of Batman. Batman's the one you empathize with. So to me, the thing that made Joker so awesome was that he's chaos personified. He's anarchy. Yeah. And you don't know why. Like Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, he literally says, I'm just a dog chasing cars. I don't even know what I'd do if I caught one. It's nothing personal. I killed her because she was there. It wasn't anything personal. Like, that's his whole gambit. That is that character.
Yeah.
So when you when you give him so much backstory and you give him so much motivation, and you almost
You
I don't even know the word.
understand?
Yeah, it takes away from the character.
I don't think so. I don't
To
think
me,
so.
For me, it does.
Now, look, there are some inconsistencies, right? I'll give you that. There's some inconsistencies in the Joker's story. However, we're talking about knowing now, after this movie, knowing that backstory, why some of the stuff, because on the timeline, you have to take Dark Knight and Joker and flop them around, because Joker is the precursor to Dark Knight. It's the story building block for Heath Ledger's character in The Dark Knight, right? It gives you some kind of idea of where to go. Now, to kind of drive this point home, a little bit here and there today, I watched some of The Dark Knight, right? And in that movie, the inconsistencies, if you watched Dark Knight right after you watched Joker, and you picked up on those inconsistencies, like him saying, the reason I have these scars is because my dad cut them into me because I didn't smile enough. Well, if the Joker grew up not knowing his father, obviously that's a lie. So he's fucking crazy and he did it himself, right? That goes back into, well, this whole movie was fucking bullshit. Why would this be, why would anything he's saying now hold relevance to his backstory if we already know his backstory?
Okay, but in this movie, what did Joker do? Okay, he killed 3 guys on a subway.
Yep.
He shot them. Okay.
Yep. He killed Murray.
He killed Murray. He shot Murray in the face on national TV.
Which was by far the most gangster. There's only one other scene in one movie ever that was more gangster than that. And we'll get into that. Continue.
Okay. And then he kills that one douchebag that gave him the gun.
Yep.
Stabs him in the face with scissors, which, by the way, that scene is possibly the most Joker personified thing I've ever seen. And I'll give the movie that. He stabs this guy in the face violently, crushes his skull into a wall, and then he's laughing with the midget guy and lets him leave. Even unlocks the door for him. Right?
Yeah.
So that was very Jokerish.
But he tells the guy, he says, "You never did wrong to me."
Right. But here's my point. So he's killed 5 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's essentially gone insane. From that, I do not get Heath Ledger's Joker, which is essentially a criminal mastermind. I don't see the transition happening at all.
But also,
Joker in The Dark Knight is fucking smart as shit.
Also though, we don't know whether the evolution could have happened. And that's where a little bit of this artistic freedom and suspense of belief, has to come in, because we don't know past him shooting Murray, right? And then, you also forgot he offed the chick in the very last scene.
Oh yeah, the nurse
at the hospital or whatever. So from that, he's killed 6 people in this movie, right? And he clicks on off into the sunset. Maybe that psychotic break drove him into he morphed into what he is now, because the majority of the movie we saw him medicated, like heavily medicated on a whole handful of narcotics at a time, right? Trying to suppress these demons, and then finally those demons come out. What's to say, also in The Dark Knight, the Joker literally lights a mountain of money on fire and says some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
If he was a criminal mastermind, he wouldn't have burned that money up. He would have kept it and used it to further his criminal enterprise. But he was able
to get all that money in the first place.
Absolutely. You don't think a severely psychotic person that has the ability?
I do not see Arthur Fleck in this movie organizing anything.
Oh, you're crazy, dude.
I don't.
You're crazy.
There's no. I just don't see it. The bank robbery scene in the beginning of Dark Knight. There is no way that Arthur Fleck pulls that off. No fucking way.
You don't think?
No, because I think when you give the character this backstory, it takes away from the actual character. The Joker in the Dark Knight is obviously he has his own mental health problems or whatever. He's crazy, but he is chaos.
Yeah.
This Joker
absolutely.
is not chaos, no matter how much it wants him to be. He's a mentally ill person that lashes back out at society.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's the difference. He's doing it for a reason. The Joker in the Dark Knight does it for no fucking reason. And that makes him such a more compelling character.
But maybe he doesn't have a reason because his brain has gone for lack of a better term, unchecked with his medications, and he has people around him who kind of push him into blossoming into that type of thing.
But the fact that we're able to have that conversation is because they don't tell us. You can't have any of this conversation about the Joker and Joker because it's all shown to you. It's all laid out for you. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Right? That is what makes the Joker in the Dark Knight better. I'm not saying it's a better performance. I think they both did. Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix both gave a phenomenal performance.
I think.
But the character itself is better.
If we're putting it to a vote on who's Joker, who played the Joker better, as much as I want to give it to Joaquin Phoenix, I got to say Heath Ledger was a better Joker for his role, right? His version of the Joker in that version of the DC universe, I think he pulled off the performance better. Yeah. However, I'm not looking at Dark Knight. I'm not comparing this movie to The Dark Knight. The only thing that I'm looking at in this movie is this movie in front of me, right? I look at this as a standalone. Okay, let me ask you this. If there was a movie that came out that was just called Bruce, and it was Bruce Wayne's entire backstory on how he became the person he is, do you think it would be nearly as attractive as this Joker movie?
Probably not. We've seen it.
Do you think if they had a movie called Jeff and it was about the Flash's backstory, do you think it would be nearly as compelling as the Joker?
No.
That is why I think it's a great movie, because this movie can be taken out of the DC universe. This can be taken out as a block over here that is just a fucking movie that has Joker attached to it with no other precursors, no prequels, no sequels, no nothing. It's just Joker. And that it stands up on its own.
For me,
I think this movie stands up on its own outside of DC. If this movie was just called Jim and it was the same thing, I think it would still be a great movie.
And I think it would have been a better movie for me. I think the problem with this movie is making it a Joker movie. That is my problem with this movie.
But it's
calling him Joker because it's not Joker.
It is.
It's not Joker in any way that it's been interpreted in any video game, in any graphic novel, in any movie.
There's the problem. You're adding preface and following to everything around this movie.
Because it's based on a character that already exists.
I know
that's what I'm saying. If this movie was literally just about a mentally ill person and it had nothing to do with Joker, for me, it wouldn't do as well at the box office because it wouldn't have the clout of being a Joker movie. But it would be a better movie, in my opinion, because it's a standalone film and it's a character study. This is a character study about Joker. So I have to compare it to what the Joker is. If you're giving me a character study on a character that already exists, I have to compare it to what I already know.
So you don't think the next to final scene in this movie where there's a wreck, boom, he's in the back of a cop car, wreck, pow, T-boned. They drag him out. His followers, his supporters, drag him out of the car, lay him on the hood of the cop car. He gets up and realizes he's bleeding from his face, and he grabs that fucking blood and makes a big smile on his face and throws his hands in the air. You don't think that's him embracing chaos? You don't think that is a turning point in the movie of him saying, okay, I'll be this guy?
For me, in the definition of chaos, it has to be there's no reason. There is everything that he does in that film, he does for a reason, and we know the reason.
But
that makes him a less compelling character.
At that moment, right? At that moment, when he notices there's blood in his face, and he wipes that up, don't you think that's like a symbol of him wiping away the reason?
No.
Like, there's no more reason. Think about it. What else does he have to prove? Furthermore, why does he kill the doctor at the end?
Because he's trying to escape.
She's trying to help him. If that's what you're basing it on, is like he's lashing out at a society who forgot about him. Well, now the society's in front of him trying to help him.
But at that point it's too little, too late.
But he did it just to do it.
I think he just did it out of he's still lashing out. He's decided at that point, y'all had a chance to help me. You cut funding out from under me. You took my meds away. Fuck y'all. This is what you get.
That's all I see it as. I don't see it as that.
I think that's where we disagree. I think you're able to strip it away and have it as a standalone movie.
No, okay. So even adding the Dark Knight at the end of it, adding the Dark Knight at the end, right? Watching them back to back, I still think it paints a good enough picture to where it's the reason I embraced chaos, the reason I let go of inhibition, the reason I left logic and reasoning behind is what happened here. But now that I've let it go, now that I'm no longer, I don't have anything else to prove there. Now let's just do it because we're a dog that likes to chase cars. I don't even know what I would do if I caught one.
Okay. If in The Dark Knight,
okay,
when he's telling the story about how he got these scars, he tells two different versions, right? You don't know if any one of them's true. You assume they're probably both not true, but you don't know for sure, right? And it's never given any validation, either one. Okay. Now imagine The Dark Knight, and he's telling that story, and he says, you want to know how I got these scars? And it goes to a flashback.
Okay.
And it's his dad cutting the scars into his face. Does that help the movie or hurt the movie?
In the moment of the movie, it helps it.
No,
but at this moment, it would hurt it.
No, I'm talking about like if you're watching The Dark Knight for the first time and you see that and he says, you want to know how I got these scars? And it's shown beyond a shadow of a doubt that his dad gave him the scars. You don't think that taking away that mystery hurts the movie?
It depends. It's kind of like a sex scene in a movie that has the camera in the closet looking at somebody watching. You never see that they're fucking. You don't know what they're doing exactly. You got an idea. Your head's kind of going one way. So like maybe the dad gets drunk, chases him down in the fucking hallway and tells him to smile, and it pans over to his little sister standing in the doorway holding a fucking bunny with her eyes, and all you see is shadow movement. Like something like that, I don't think it would.
Right. I'm saying a flashback that takes all guesswork out of it.
I well,
For me, that hurts the movie
it kind of
because what makes
I
you
can
see what
see
I'm
what
saying?
you're saying. Yeah, I can
Okay,
see what you're
and
saying
to
because
me,
you don't know whether it's bullshit or not.
that's exactly what Joker does. That's exactly what this movie does. It removes all of the mystery of the character, even if you're saying it goes into Dark Knight and it's a building block for Dark Knight. The reason that Joker was so good is because I didn't know jack shit about him. I didn't know where he came from. All I know is he was fucking crazy. He was the embodiment of chaos, and he was there to fuck shit up for no apparent reason. And I'm like, well,
Okay.
that's fucking cool.
Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to what you said about him being a criminal mastermind. Right?
Okay.
So, in the movie we see Bruce Wayne, right? Approximately what age would you assign to Bruce Wayne?
Less than 10.
Okay, so I was going to say about 10 years old because he looked to be about the same age as my daughter. So let's assume he's 10 years old, right? How old was Batman in The Dark Knight? How old was Bruce Wayne in Dark Knight?
He was like late 20s, early 30s.
Okay, so let's assume he's 30, right?
Okay.
So that's a 20-year gap in between the end of the Joker movie and the beginning of Dark Knight. In that 20 years of being a criminal of that level, 6 murders under his belt, inciting riots, right? There's no question that he killed the 3 guys on the subway. There's no question that he killed the dude in his apartment. There's no question that he killed Murray, right? He did it on fucking TV, for God's sake, right? There's no question that he's killed at minimum 5 people. Then the doctor comes in last, right? A criminal to that level has got to get smart, and they got to get that way really quick to elude law enforcement. Would you agree?
Yeah.
You're on the run 20 years. Even if it's 17 years, right? We'll give Bruce Wayne 28, right? 17 years on the run, 27, whatever. To be on the run for 17 to 20 years without being caught, without, having light shed on you, you got to be a mastermind, dude. You'd have to be.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't see Arthur Fleck as that.
But that's what I'm saying. There has to be some evolution there that we don't see. And
that now at that point, you're talking about a mid-50s aged Joker in The Dark Knight.
Have you seen Keanu Reeves?
Oh, that is true. I don't know. For me, the character, the less I know about that character, the better. When you make an origin movie about the Joker, it just seems, for me, it's self-defeating. I don't want to know his origin story. I don't want to know why he's chaos. I just want to see him be chaos.
Well, from your standpoint, is what it is. From mine, I think this movie did a great service to art, to the movie. I think the character portrayal was probably the best character portrayal since the previous Joker. And I think it showed a side of a character that is well loved by just about everybody. I mean, you show me somebody that doesn't like the Joker, and I'm going to show you somebody that's never watched fucking Dark Knight. Right? So, and it accomplished a goal of bringing awareness to mental health that hasn't been done in this package. Right? I agree. It's been done in Taxi Driver. Right? But that was its own package. That was this little clamshell. Well, this is in a bright, shiny package with a recognizable face. And I think it for me, well, you know what? Let's take this but real quick. I want to get back to the most gangster scene, right? So Arthur goes on the Murray show. This is his dream. He's always wanted to go on Murray until he starts that spiral down into darkness. And at the bottom of those stairs, he realizes this is it. This is my coup de grace, right? He goes on the show. He's talking to him, pulls out a gun, boom, pops him in the skull.
Yeah.
Right? So there's only, in my opinion, one scene in one movie more gangster than that. And the scene is in American Gangster. The actor is Denzel Washington.
When he shoots that motherfucker in broad
He
daylight.
walks down the fucking block, grabs the glass off the fucking table, walks down the block, sees the dude and says, "Hey, homie, you ain't doing that around here no more." And then puts that gun to his head and blows him away. And then puts his 20 cents and 20% in the fucking cup on top of it. That was the most gangster scene I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But let's go to ratings because I think this is going to be a good one.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
So why don't you go first with your objective rating?
Objectively, if I'm looking at this as a Joker movie, which is what it is, I would give it a 3.5.
Did you just?
I'd give it a 3.5.
Did you just say 3.5?
3.5.
Holy shit balls!
That's what I'd give it.
Wow, you are just as fucking delusional as Arthur Fleck is.
I'm sorry, that's the way I see it. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I think it's had a lot of hype, and I think that probably in 10 years, it won't hold up as well as The Dark Knight did.
Subjectively,
say it's a rental. And I bought it, but I would say it's a rental. I don't see it having much replay value. Maybe watching it twice. I've watched it twice. I don't see myself watching it again anytime soon. I'd say it's a 3.5 and it's a rental. I think it's a must see, but I don't necessarily think it's a must own.
Spender said, "Go home, Steven. You're drunk."
Hey, well, opinions are what make movie reviews good.
Yep.
And I happen to be in the minority on this one. I don't think it's as great as it's being made out to be.
And you know what? You said in the beginning that I was not going to agree with your ratings. And you are 100% correct on that. Because subjectively, or we'll go objectively. Objectively, looking at it as a movie, which is what I'm looking at it as, not a Joker movie, not as a DC movie, not as a precursor to the Dark Knight movie, not as anything other than a building block story for the Joker's character. I think Joaquin Phoenix's performance in this movie, I don't think you could have cast anybody better. I think his performance and his portrayal and his dedication to the character, losing 30 pounds is that's dedication. I think the cinematography was fantastic. The way that it looked old but it felt new was fantastic. The cutscenes and the special effects and everything in this movie I thought fit, and it did what it was supposed to do, and it did it fucking well. So I'm going to say, because I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of, you have a violent character, and I hate to, say it like this, but I wish there was a little bit more violence instead of shooting a guy and then shooting three guys and then stabbing a dude. I think that was the best kill that he had in that movie, was the dude in his apartment, because it showed physical violence. It showed the wrath, the fucking, you could feel it when he killed that guy. Right? The other three almost, the three guys in the three guys in the subway felt like a crime of passion. Right? Even though he did chase the guy down and shoot him at point blank, it still felt like, I'm getting jumped on the subway, boom, 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 I'm gonna start shooting. Right? It was a crime of passion. It took place in the moment. The Murray kill was a lot better because it was heavily premeditated, but it wasn't as violent. It was much more public. It was more of a public execution, is exactly what it was.
Wow. See, we disagree on that too. I don't think it was premeditated. I think he was going on that show to kill himself. And then in the moment, he decided to shoot him instead.
That's a fold that we could, because there was precedent for you to think about that, because he's sitting on the couch, he puts it up to his head and pulls the trigger. Yeah. Like that takes dedication, even if the gun's unloaded. But
I think he wasn't going to kill him until he started fucking with him. Like, I think that's what made him kill him.
But was that the break, or was that the entire intention of him going on the show to begin with?
See, I thought that was the reason he said, like, even on the show, he said, nothing can hurt me anymore. He made it sound like he was going to end it. And then I think when he says, you're awful, that was kind of the point where he started realizing, you're everything that I hate. And then he took it out on him. Instead of killing himself, he decided to kill him. That was the way I read that scene.
I don't know. Look, after we get through the ratings, I want to go through how I see this movie subjectively. So okay. Objectively, as far as a movie goes, I think it's easily a 4.7. And the only reason I say a 4.7 is I think the character should have been younger, just to keep with that distance between his age and Bruce Wayne's age, just to kind of close that gap up a little bit. I think he should have been an early 20s character, as opposed to what clearly he was clearly 30, 35 years old, if not older than that. So I think had they cast, but that's the problem. You can't cast anybody. You can't cast a better character for that role than Joaquin Phoenix. I don't think you're going to find a better method actor out there. What are you going to get, Adrian Brody? Like, he's not the Joker. He's not. Joaquin Phoenix looks like he's fucked up. Like 99% of the time in his real life, let alone outside of a fucking movie where he gets to play somebody that's clearly insane. 4.7, that's what I'm giving it. Now, objectively.
Subjectively.
Oh, subjectively. Okay, so subjectively, I'm going to give it a 5. And I'm going to give it a 5 because the very last scene of the movie, right? You had the twist where he went and saw Bruce Wayne. You had the twist where his mother may or may not have adopted him. You have the twist in there where he may have killed himself instead of Murray. You had the twist of the chick's not really there, right? Then at the very end, when he wakes up in that, it goes to this white room, this pristine room, and he's talking to a mental health professional. And she's sitting across the room, and he starts laughing. And she says, "What are you laughing at?" He said, "Oh, just thinking. You wouldn't understand." That movie could have been entirely a delusion inside of a mentally ill person's head in the moment, because there is no construct of time inside of a daydream. There's no construct of no concept of time inside of a physical dream. I've went to sleep on the couch for 5 minutes and had a dream that felt like it was 3 days long, and I was only asleep for 5 minutes. Time ceases to exist in a delusion.
Yeah.
So I think, and this is just my opinion, and there are actually a lot of people out there that have the same opinion. I think it was all a delusion from the fucking beginning.
See, I took it as that because he said, "I was just thinking of a joke. Do you want to tell it to me?" No, you wouldn't understand. And it showed that flashback of Bruce Wayne after his parents were killed. I think it was him realizing kind of like what he had set up. So that was the way that I took it. But also, I just want to clear this up in chat. I am not comparing Joker to The Dark Knight. I'm not comparing the two movies. They're two vastly different movies. My point is that when you decide to take an already established character like the Joker, you kind of corner yourself. It's like what they did in The Last Jedi with Luke, and they were trying to subvert expectations, and they took a character that is one way
Let's
and
not
then
talk
portray
about.
him.
Let's not talk about
It's
Star
just a good
Wars
example.
until
They took
May.
a character that is established in one direction, and then they took him and completely put him in this category, and everybody was outraged because that's not the character. And that's the same way I feel about this Joker. If it was called anything else, if it was a different name, I think I would like the movie more. But when you say it's the Joker, there are certain things that need to happen, or really things that don't need to happen. And I think giving the Joker an origin story this fleshed out is kind of self-defeating. They do it's a good movie. I just don't think it's a great one. But I'm not comparing it to Dark Knight. They're two totally different movies.
So can we bring up some can we bring up an IMDb rating and a Rotten Tomatoes rating real quick?
Sure.
And I don't give a fuck about the Rotten Tomatoes. I want to see the crowd score. I don't care about their politically biased reviewers.
All right, IMDb, it's got an 8.7 out of 10.
Okay.
The critic consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is 69%. The audience score is 88%.
So there you go. You're definitely in the minority, bro. Which you knew that coming in. You knew that coming in.
Unless you're talking about critical score. Critical score is 69% and a 3.5 are right about the same. But as far as audience goes, yeah, I'm in the minority.
Yeah.
I'm really not. I'm just not saying it's as great as everyone is saying it is. I think it's a good movie. I just don't think it's great.
I think if you took this out of the scope of Joker, I think you would give it a higher score.
I would. But that's the problem. If you're going to give me a character analysis on a character that has already been established, you've set the parameters yourself by picking the Joker. And then just completely kind of disregarding that, I don't think works. It doesn't work for me. That's why Heath Ledger's Joker was so good, because it was the Joker. This guy, it doesn't feel like the Joker to me.
Well, yeah, that role was so dark, he fucking killed himself, dude. Like it doesn't get any darker than that.
I just that's the way I see it.
Well,
So, like I said, I knew we were going to disagree on this one, but hey, that's the good thing about movies. Everybody has an opinion, and doesn't mean anybody's wrong.
yeah. Look, potatoes are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and I love eating potatoes.
Exactly. I've never heard it said that way, but all right.
Well, all right. So next week, what are we watching?
We haven't even fucking talked about it.
Yeah. So let's talk about it.
Well, I did just watch a new release that was pretty good.
Okay.
Did you like Zombieland? No. Okay, because the sequel just came out. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I was not a huge fan. I thought it was good, but I couldn't tell if it wanted to be humor or horror. I think killing Bill Murray in Zombieland was probably the funniest thing I'd ever seen. That was the one time that the dude grows balls and he kills Bill Murray. Like, come on, it doesn't get much better than that. But
well, I mean, I don't have anything. Do you have something you want to watch?
Well, let's see.
Or we can maybe toss it to chat and see if they have any suggestions.
Yeah, chat. Do y'all have any suggestions? We'd prefer to keep it more current, if at all possible.
Agreed, D-Bone.
What?
Killing Joke is better than The Dark Knight.
I don't know what Killing Joke is.
Graphic novel. I don't know if he's talking about the novel or if he's talking about the cartoon.
Well, what do we got out now?
Bad Grandpa. I don't know what Bad Grandpa is. Oh, that's the one with I have seen that. D-Bone saying Zombieland double tap. To me, the sequel is funny as shit.
Well, that's my thing. Like, I don't know how I feel about incorporating zombies into a comedy movie. Then again, I didn't
Shaun of the Dead.
Then again, I didn't know how I would feel about zombies being introduced into an action movie, but Overlord kind of kicked ass.
Yeah. Have you never seen Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah.
That's a zombie comedy.
Yeah. Everything. What's his name? Simon Pegg. Everything he's ever done has been fucking great.
Bob Shorkey says something that we can watch on Netflix, which is kind of something I was thinking about.
Do The Irishman?
Do y'all want us to do The Irishman, that new Scorsese movie that's on Netflix?
Because I've been wanting to watch that anyways.
Yeah, I have to. I think it's like 3.5 hours long or some shit. But
well, I mean, it's Martin Scorsese. I wouldn't expect anything less.
Shorkey said that would be cool. D-Bone doesn't have the flicks of net. Justin Jenkins is saying Highwaymen. That's that Woody Harrelson one, I think. I haven't watched that yet.
Well, D-Bone, I can, let's see.
Spender, was it any good?
I'm not a robot.
Yes, Jennifer, we're still talking.
Yeah, D-Bone, I can hook you up with a link to watch The Irishman. So
Spender said Irishman was good, not great in his opinion. Well, okay. Maybe let's not make, because I mean maybe we can do a poll or something. We'll come up with some movies and maybe post a poll somewhere or something.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
Do that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try to look at maybe.
Let's do it on Instagram. Let's do a versus. We'll do Irishman versus fucking Zombieland double tap.
Okay.
Right? So we'll do that. We'll put them up side by side. We'll put a vote up. Steven, go ahead and start working on that after the show. We'll get it up sometime today, tomorrow. Go over there to our Instagram, Two Guys in a Trailer. Vote on which one you want to see. The one that gets the most.
Next week we'll have a banner, hopefully, of the handle, but that's the handle right there. It's all lowercase, no space, Two Guys and a Trailer. That's the Instagram.
Yep.
So if y'all will go over there and follow that, and we'll I'll probably have that up either tonight or tomorrow. So
there you go. So as always, we appreciate you guys hanging out, spending some time with us on Monday night.
Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier.
So we're not using OBS anymore. That got us out of a bind one time, and I was like, well, we'll just keep using it. Nope, not anymore. So that's what we've got. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys later.
Later, guys.